Now you have to get used to seeing people write college essays with their thumbs. It's an adjustment, but it's important. So what we're seeing here is that in this audience, we're still very laptop and computer focused, and that's very, very helpful. All right, we're going to switch over to an earlier survey with a quick toggle, and then we're going to continue. While we're toggling, we're surprising you? Anything you're excited to see?
I was actually surprised about the technology.
Me too.
The laptop computer.
Yeah, I did expect it to be mobile.
Yeah.
So that's very good to see.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. I wonder if it's because like a lot of schools, like, I don't know, like my kids are in elementary school, they're still using like Chromebooks and stuff.
Chromebooks changed the world.
Yeah, so
yes.
I wonder if maybe that's why the laptop is still.
Yeah, what did you?
Yeah.
So we've learned a bit about our audience.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and begin the presentation.
Let's get this party started.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Earlier in the conversation, before I got to show up today, you took another survey, and that survey asked, what is your creative field? Music, visual, animation, etc. So I asked for a copy of that as well, and what I'm seeing is of the folks who are in the room, there's a very high concentration of animation specialists, photography, graphic design, visual artists, and of course, filmmaking. So this is all feeding into something that's incredibly important for me as I get ready to present to you. So we're going to go to the next slide. We are in the middle of a disruption. We are in the middle of a disruption at so many levels, everyone. There's cultural disruption, there's political disruption. I'm here to tell you about an industry disruption. I have worked in the entertainment industry for decades, and there is so much I learned when I began to do technology at the same time I was doing entertainment. And so the disruption I want to speak about that we're experiencing in the entertainment industry is nothing new. We're being disrupted by a technology company. And every major industry disruption of the past 20 years has happened at the hands of a technology company. There's a reason technology companies disrupt the industries they enter, and in some instances, completely dismantle. Think of one instance of a technology disruption. Which industry did Airbnb disrupt? Hotels, hospitality. How about Uber, Lyft, and ride-sharing services? Taxis. For the old heads in here, what did Apple disrupt? Which industry did it completely tear down brick by brick? Some of you don't know this. Who does? Yeah, it completely ended the music industry, as many of us knew it. It's the only way if you came up on iPhones and music players, etc., it's the only way you've ever experienced the music industry, that they disrupted it. Why, then, do these industries, when tech companies come into them, get disrupted? There is a fundamental difference between how tech companies and what I call analog world, the world I came up in entertainment, move through spaces. There's a fundamental difference between tech best practices, lean methodology, design thinking, etc., and analog best practices, which are what we have always done, move through the universe. And it can be summarized with this comparison. Analog world is product first. Tech companies are customer first. Analog world, product first. I have an idea. Step one. Step two, I'm gonna go create that idea. Step three, I'm gonna go monetize the idea. I have to go find people who fall in love with my idea. Analog. I have an idea, I create the idea, I go find an audience for the idea to try and monetize the idea. Anyone here who's ever worked in television or read the trades about television knows this extraordinary experience we offer called the upfronts. I want you to think about that name. If you've never heard of the upfronts, what are we doing up front? Well, here's what we do. Still, people pitch ideas for television shows. They pitch ideas for television shows that the studios pay for. Network distributors agree to distribute, at least at the pilot level. Then we go and produce the show. Then in May, we go to New York for this thing called the Upfronts because are you recording? I did. Okay, I'll follow up after. Very nice to see you. Because then we go in May to New York to this thing called the Upfronts, and we sell the completed product ahead of ever releasing it to our audience. And then in the fall, it's very exciting, right? All the new series come out in the fall. And then we find out if anyone likes the thing we built. And if they don't like what we built, if we don't make our number, if we don't deliver the ratings that we promised the advertisers we sold this to we were going to deliver, we have to make good. We have to give them the equivalent of those eyeballs to make good on our promise. When you think about television being produced that way, raise your hand if that makes a whole lot of sense. It does. Raise your hand if you think there'd be a different way that you might want to do it. In the back. You, sir, with the glasses.
Yeah.
Ma'am, sorry. It's dark.
Just more control, more creative control.
Oh, well, that is not part of there's no creative control in this process. That's not part of the process.
Exactly.
Yes. You would put out sample videos to see what people watch, and then you would create those shows. Who remembers an interesting upstart company when we were all still going to the video store, to Blockbuster, and other cool stores, who said, oh, you don't have to go to the video store. You can stay home, and we'll just email you DVDs.
Netflix, Redbox.
And you can keep them for as long as you like. You can return them whenever. What do you think they did with all of the data of the most popular shows that people watched? How long they kept them, if they ever returned them? Do you think it would be kind of awesome to have all of that data on millions and millions of people before you ever produced your first television show? So that when you produced the first television show, you were an Emmy nominee out of the gate when rival studios and networks had been at it for 30 years and never made it that far. If you listen to nothing else I say, this is the longest part of this presentation. I want you to shift from being product first, since so many of you are early stage in your entrepreneurial journey. You're either still ideating, or you got something started and you're trying to figure out how to grow it. Right now, it is a fairly likely probability that you have an idea or a product from that idea or a service from that idea, and you're out there trying to market it, just like analog world. I have an idea is a product first experience. I have a customer, I have an audience whose life I am trying to change is a customer first experience. All disruption lives inside of that shift. So, how do we make the shift? It's very, very, very easy. If you already have an idea, a service, a product, that's just a gateway to understanding the outcome you're trying to achieve in the world. So the product is helpful because it tells you that there's something you think you can create or offer that will create change in the world that would be meaningful to you. Now, part of that change is I would like independence, I would like revenue, I would like to help friends and family. We're going to pick up everything about you and remove it from the equation. And say, in addition to personal gain, which is valid and highly motivating, who in the world benefits from this product, this service, this offering that I have in mind? Because that is your core customer, and the outcomes for them will be your North Star. So if I say, oh, I have this idea for a ping pong ball that has, a location finder built into it. Because when you're in cliffside ping pong tournaments, and the ball goes somewhere, it's very hard to find. It's in the bushes, or a golf ball with a locator in it. Do you see what I'm saying? And then your thought from there in analog world is, I gotta go manufacture this. Oh, well, let me start filing my patents. Okay, let me get on the phone with some golf courses and some coaches, blah, 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 blah. In tech world, in customer first world, you say, oh, I'm really excited about this golf ball that has a location, tracker on it. And then you say, whose life would change if the golf ball with the location tracker on it works? And then you start to ideate audience instead of product. Golfers' lives, more importantly, caddies' lives. Golf courses, especially ones with very difficult terrain, where it's hard to find the balls when they go off course. Do you see what I'm saying? The ideation of whose life changes, and then centering in yourself, and which one of these people matter to me, is the next critical step. Once you've shifted from saying, I gotta get my offering out, to I gotta go change the world for these people with my offering. Now I know who the people are that matter to me. If you want the best example of why you should never limit yourself to a product, service, or offering, I always say, and this is dating me, but I think it's still relevant enough for most people, what is Oprah Winfrey's job title?
No.
Exactly. She does not have a job title. It's really well timed. She does not have a job title. Burn. Imagine if she said, say it again.
Burn.
Burn?
Yeah.
Oh, burn like, oh, wait, you. Burn like 80s burn?
No, like insult burn.
Yeah, that's 80s burn. Hello, thank you. She was like, now I am too young to know what an 80s burn is, but I'm excited to say that is a great use of burn. All right, yes. Oprah, imagine Oprah saying, I'm a former talk show host. And you're like, but what about these other 80 things you do, right? So when you try and limit yourself to a job title, when you try to limit yourself to a product, a service, an offering, you are limiting yourself, and in my book, even worse, limiting your customer to that one thing you can do to change their life. Imagine saying I'm a talk show host when you also have schools to build, and speakers bureaus to launch, and 15 other television shows that you're going to spin out from your brand, and a record-setting magazine launch. And imagine your philanthropy, all of that being reduced to on a talk show host. Each time you try to limit the scope of what you do or what you offer, you limit your own possibility, and most importantly, your customers. So you can switch the way you frame yourself to, I help golfers reach their greatest game. I'm totally making this up. When people ask me what I do, I say, I help people finally get where they've been trying to go. And that's what I do with my software, that's what I do with my strategy firm, that's what I do in a box, with a fox, wearing socks. I call it Dr. Seussing. It doesn't matter. If you pitch me any environment and move me into it, I know how to navigate to my North Star, which is one, who's trying to get somewhere. Because people who are not trying to get somewhere either cry when I talk to them or flee the room. So the first thing I'm looking for are aspirants, people who are trying to get somewhere, and people who have tried and have not yet gotten where they're trying to go. There's a lot in my sentence. There's a lot in my sentence. And the first question I have to ask them is, where are you trying to go? Imagine if I had just put a canned speech together and not asked any of the questions at the beginning of this presentation. and just decided I'm going to talk about how awesome AI is in the age of career exploration. That would not be helpful. That's why you always find out from the customer. I already know it. In a room of people who came to this event and to this presentation, I'm in a room of my dream customer, my dream audience, people who are trying to get somewhere and have tried to get somewhere, and I'm here to help you do so. So the question I have to ask is, what's the best possible outcome that this customer is trying to get to, so I can start figuring out how to get to an offering. Do you see how completely inverted that is? That is customer first instead of product first. All right, next step, the baseline. The next thing, once I've identified my audience, is figuring out where are they starting from right now. If I haven't had any customer conversations, any audience discovery, and I don't know where you're starting from, I will have no idea if what I'm doing to work with you is moving the needle in a meaningful way for you. So I have to establish baseline. Remember the question, where are you right now in your creative entrepreneurship journey? If everyone were starting from zero, that's kind of a different conversation. Or if everyone had already launched their companies, it's a completely different conversation. So establishing the baseline matters, and ideally in a measurable way, right? Even if it's a light survey. Where are you starting from? And ideally, we've already established the outcome, where you're trying to go. So the next most important question is, what is getting in the way? Here's where you're starting from. You've already told me your outcome. What's getting in the way? What resources could I add? Could you close that mic? What resources could I add? What friction can I eliminate so you can get where you're trying to go? Every single offering you have, the win is in those two questions. Because you're either going to provide the resource or eliminate the friction with your offering. And now you've got buy-in from the customer. They're telling you what they want. Give it to them. Okay, here's the next one. This is so important. Outcome, baseline, those are measurable. Those are quantitative evaluations. But if you want to navigate to success and disrupt, there's a huge qualitative piece, you guys. You have to understand the sentiments around this journey for all of the stakeholders in the journey. When I say sentiments, I am telling you, you must understand how your customer feels about getting to this outcome, where they are, the frictions, the resources that they're lacking, the gaps. But the other stakeholders might include the people that you're seeking funding from if it's not the customer. If you're a nonprofit, you want to give something for free, you got to go raise grants. What are the sentiments of the foundations that you would be reaching out to in this specific space of conversation that you were trying to impact? So I have done a lot of work in college access. I would never want to charge the students, ever, to assist with college access. But the other stakeholders, if I'm saying I want to double first generation 4-year college enrollment, over the next 6 years, totally making that up, I better have a conversation with admissions officers, high school college advisors, parents and guardians of college applicants, the teachers of the critical academic class. If I don't understand the sentiment around that, I can't fix the problem, because there's going to be unexamined friction, unutilized resources. Do you see what I'm saying? I have to have the conversation. What I did find in those conversations as a 3rd generation college graduate was how invested many people were in telling 1st generation graduates that they were overreaching. Once I understood how active that obstacle was across virtually all of the stakeholders, including the parents and guardians sometimes, who would be the highest level of friction, then I knew I had to introduce into my offering something that addressed the objection. That's a tech expression. Have you addressed your customer objections? if I haven't checked what my customer objections are, or the objections of other people with power in the environment, I'm in trouble. So I have to assess the sentiments of everyone involved in my proposed solution. This is my favorite one, but it makes folks, it's a disrupting statement, let me say that. When you are trying to achieve change, and if you're bringing an offering into the universe, you are trying to achieve change for yourself and for whoever it is you are hoping will engage with your offering. When you are trying to achieve change, the fastest way to get there for your audience is what has worked for every and anyone else who is already achieving the outcome. I'm going to say it one more time. When you are trying to achieve change, the fastest way for your audience to get there is for you to take a look at the pipeline of how others are already achieving that and take that as your ground zero. If you are trying to help first-time home buyers in Buellton, California, purchase a home, I'm from Central Coast, so that's a highly specific reference. If you're trying to help them buy a home with less than 20% down, in a current economy, right, that's already challenging to buy homes in, with mortgage interest rates that have come down, but still high. And it's incredibly, incredibly difficult for people to buy homes right now. The inventory is not what it used to be. You're competing with commercial purchasing. I don't want to get too grand there. Do you understand? I've done all of this conversation. 20% down at the current price of homes and the current mortgage interest rate is too much. Rather than saying, I'm going to come up with something really cool and interesting, I'm actually going to go get the data of everyone in Buellton who's done what? Bought a home with less than 20% down. Does that feel obvious when I say it? As a strategist, my biggest work is getting people to release their connection to the product. Or I have an idea how we could do this, to say, that's product first. If there's already a pathway to the win, your job is to help your customer achieve their goals, not implement a vision of your own. That is a huge shift. That's why I keep talking to it. So the pipeline, what is the current, authentic, organic, frictionless pipeline that some people are enjoying, that I can learn from, because somewhere in that pipeline are missing resources or friction and obstacles being artificially introduced for my target customer. Almost done. The expertise. This is my favorite part. First of all, this is usually when I come into the process as a strategist, and we see if those earlier steps have been done. But for you, it's my favorite part, because I'm just giving you the release of thinking that it's only valid if it came out of my mind. I always urge people, don't try to go as far as you can go on what you know right now. Your job as a disruptor, as a creator, as a business owner, is to solve problems for your customer. If anyone else has already solved problems for this customer, or solved this problem for other customers, or, very important, solved this problem for your customer, we call them competitors, bring all of that expertise in-house before you start ideating on how you're going to fix the problem. It's certainly in creative spaces. I was a development exec for many years, and I would recommend people watch as much product as possible before they pitch. And they would say, oh, I don't want to be influenced by other people's work. And it's, well, you can't possibly think you're going to pitch an original, like a wholly original idea. That's not even the currency of our industry. There's going to be one element that's new, and everything else needs to be familiar enough that I can put numbers behind it and sell it. So releasing the belief that your currency is I came up with everything myself, I didn't get any help, I didn't do any research, as opposed to your currency being I talk to my customer, I completely understand their journey, I get what's in the way, I get what else they need, I get why what they're currently trying isn't working for them, and based on that, here's what we want to try. Raise your hand if that resonates. Raise your hand if you need me to say it again. All right. I have two pathways. The organic pathway that I tend to arrive into organizations at is someone, the keeper of the flame, the innovator, has had an idea. And they're very excited about the idea. And for them, the valid idea is only one that they had the idea of without talking to anyone. They haven't been influenced by other people doing similar things. They've done no research in the competitive space. They haven't done any research for people who have tried it before, who are serving this current audience. They've literally developed the idea in a vacuum. And that, to them, makes the idea valid and original. Putting your tech hat on, developing ideas without talking to customers, researching the marketplace, understanding the competition, what worked before, what didn't work before, is a recipe for just abject failure as quickly as you can possibly get to. So the big switch here, the big switch when we get to expertise, is no one should know better than you before you ever come up with your idea. The pain point of this customer, everything else they've tried, where they're trying to go, what's getting in the way of their going, the friction of it, the missing resources, the gaps, the obstacles. Imagine trying to plan a birthday party for someone without ever asking them, hey, what would you like for your birthday party? Married people just say nothing. Everyone else, imagine someone planning something for you without ever having a conversation and then saying, ta-da, you're welcome, and asking for their subscription rate. That doesn't make sense. But that's how analog world moves with ideas. Me, 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 me. It's a very tough thing to release, but all of your possibility, all of your revenue, and all of your scale is in them, 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 them. All right? You've done all of this work, and it is time at last to figure out, how will I know I've changed them? I know where they're starting. I know where they're trying to go. What is a measurable space after a contained period of time in which I can check to see if what I'm doing works? Again, in analog world, our measure of success is I said I was going to do something and I did it. We're going to have a gala this year. We had the gala. There's my success. Year over year, how many more people came to the fundraiser? Okay, how many people came this year? Oh, we had a 20% increase in donations. By the time I show up, I'm pulling you back to say, what was the purpose of the gala? What was the purpose of the fundraiser? Was it to end this particular disease? Was it to increase access for this community to this particular opportunity? Your measurement has become about the event, the product. The execution becomes the thing. We've got to marry that back to, did I change my customer's life? So the meaningful metric goes back to, where are they trying to go, and did I get them there? That could be very, very huge. And so after you've done all of this work, you have one last question before you begin. You have one last question before you begin. What is the smallest thing I can possibly do in the shortest amount of time to move the needle for my customer? In tech, it's called the minimum viable product, MVP. What's the smallest thing I can do in the shortest amount of time to move the needle that I've already learned about for my customer in a measurable and meaningful way? That's your first offering. If your first offering is already much bigger than that, you're figuring out how to launch the nonprofit, do the startup, I'm filing for patents and trademarks. If you are creating infrastructure instead of creating change, stop. You're creating infrastructure because you control its outcome. Change is scary. Change is a combo experience. You gotta do it anyway. And that's why you do an MVP. I'm not trying to end world hunger out of the gate, but I am trying to see if I can close this food desert experience XYZ for this 4-block radius. What can I learn about what's contributing to this issue? And can I see if my solution actually brings the numbers down that I measured? MVP. MVP. Creative entrepreneurship is no different than any other entrepreneurship. That's the story I want you to hear from me and take away. Once you decide it's going to be your business, even if it's in the entertainment industry, even if it's a video game, even if it's a vertical with a drama that you're excited to produce, even if it's an animated experience that you're trying to bring to print or to life on Instagram. As soon as you decide, I'm starting a company, I'm starting a business, I'm a founder, even in our beautiful creative world, the product disappears until you've talked to the customer. So the idea that you have right now exists for one beautiful reason, which is to say, based on this idea, who is the customer that is meaningful to me, whose life I want to change? And let me begin to do so. I'm going to check to see if we have any time for Q&A. I'm going to keep going, they're not looking. I'm going to show you a product that I created. Most of our users are entertainment community users. This is called Corky. It's a productivity and collaboration solution that uses AI to create project plans for anyone's vision in less than a minute, and then integrates all of your existing tools, Google, Microsoft, Zoom, into a single workspace so you can get things done. So I'm just going to use a chat prompt, you've all seen chat prompts, to tell Corky, create a 6-week plan for my startup research to help creative talent explore entrepreneurship opportunities. And just like any other chat prompt, I'm going to press go. And I'm going to be on a different network and not have my phone with me, so I'm not going to be able to demo that for you, so I will just show it to you here.
Gather tabs, apps, clients, and team members. Corky lets you run your entire business from one workspace using your own apps and drives. While you're planning your project, just tell Corky what you need to get done, and in under 60 seconds, you'll have a complete project execution board. Welcome to Vibe Productivity.
Welcome to Vibe Productivity. We wanted to make it possible for people to do project planning who had no idea where to begin, who don't have the chance to come to a presentation, and for us to engage. You do have that chance, but you also will see an invitation to double the free trial on Corky using the BRIC 26 coupon. I hope this has been incredibly helpful to you. We don't have time for Q&A, is that correct? So we're going to shift to lunchtime. I hope it has been helpful. I am rooting for you and your projects. And remember, customer first. Thank you so much.